to the Untitled Basketball Podcast, also known as M.O.B Podcast, episode 113. I'm Evan.
I'm Ja.
This is our basketball podcast where we recap, break down, and analyze players and teams from the previous games, the previous day. Because you always mess up on the games. It always confuses me. I be having it one time, you be like, no, and then you change my mind, and then later on we have 5 different videos titled 115.
But that's what I was telling you. I was kind of lost, but I was like, wait, I actually did. I posted it earlier. It was 112, and I had to show you the picture to show us proof. It's 112, man. Now we on 113.
Yes. We see. But anyway, how was your Friday?
It was cute.
How's it cute?
Beauty nap.
What?
Nothing.
You put cucumbers over your eyes?
Oh, you just saying cucumbers just brought something funny up.
Anyway, I'm doing good as well. I hope everyone have a good day. Hope everyone will have a good day. It's Friday. Get through the day and you can enjoy the rest of today and the start of the weekend. As for the games, as for basketball, short lineup from yesterday, but a few good games mixed in between there. Most of the good games we were covering, so that was a good part. So let's get into it. First, starting off the top dogs of the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers, led by MVP, going up against the reigning MVP back-to-back and Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis and his Milwaukee Bucks. And it was Giannis and his Bucks that got out to that hot start early. And man, was it a hot start. I mean, just kind of dominating the Sixers team in a surprising way. Came out, had rhythm, had flow. Sixers came out a little bit
flat.
Yeah, a little bit flat, a little bit sluggish. And it took the Sixers some time to get into rhythm. But eventually they did. And unfortunately for them, however, that wasn't until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Because that was the fourth quarter hit, and the Sixers finally just woke up all of a sudden and say, oh, yeah, we got a basketball game to play. So, hence, they played basketball. And hence, they got back into this game, cut it in single digits. But as I said, it was kind of a little bit too late. And it was the Bucks holding on late and winning this game 124-117. Get your thoughts first.
It was basically Milwaukee's game all the way to the end. I don't care if the Sixers even came back in that fourth quarter and made it a ball game. They waited too long, too late. And Milwaukee, as a team, just had it flowing from all around, especially on the offensive end. They made a lot of threes. And they got into the basket time to time, but they just had it over the Sixers team, and there's nothing else that needs to be said.
I mean, yeah, really.
Sorry.
Yeah, but you got to give credit to the Bucks team. When they really need to play hard and when they really need to look dominant, they can. And it's kind of scary when they do that because we know how good this team can be. You know how good this team has been. Past 2 years, they've been the best team in the East, and they've been possible favorites for the finals. Of course, playoffs, unfortunate events happened in the previous 2 years. They're looking to kind of go against that this year. But yeah, against a team like the Sixers, against that man right behind me, right? Yeah, against that man right behind me, Embiid, they played great. Yes. And yeah, gotta give him credit. Gotta give credit to Giannis and Holiday and Middleton and Bobby Portis, who stepped up coming off the bench. I mean, this team just played great basketball last night. So all praises to Milwaukee Bucks, who are only 2.5 games behind the Nets and the Sixers. Still a lot of games to be played. And, just within, 3 games, they can steal it.
Well, again, we both alluded to it so many times. The East is so close still.
Mm-hmm.
Things could switch up in a matter of moments. Whether you win, whether it's a win or a loss, things could just switch up in a matter of moments. So if you are winning games and things start to switch up, then that's a great thing for you. If
Yeah.
you're losing games, though, yikes.
Kind of like how the Sixers team lost back-to-back to that man and to Giannis.
Yep.
So yeah, and mentioned the Sixers, said the Bucks are behind 2.5 behind the Sixers and the Nets, because the Sixers and the Nets have,
I think, right?
they're tied right now. Sixers hold tiebreaker, so they're currently first. But to me, the Sixers need that first seed more than both the Bucks and the Nets.
Yes, they do. Home court advantage, give them an opportunity, and even though they're a new look, stylized kind of team, it's just like I think they need home court advantage for their confidence, for their egos, for everything. Because the Bucks already established themselves as dominant contenders. Well, the Sixers have always been right alongside the Bucks, but the Bucks have had always the better potential.
Yeah.
Where and has always been showing that maturity and continuity level as a team effort, in which the Sixers, they are just mainly focused with Embiid and Simmons, if that makes sense. In
What
which,
do you mean by that?
so like with the Bucks, it's gonna always be like a kind of like well, the game is always about a team effort, but with the Bucks, it's always gonna be a continuity effort. We know that Giannis is obviously the face, but they always find some way to put around the well-gathered pieces around to say like, hey, this is a championship team. In which, when you look at the Sixers, it's just like the reason why I say that people look at them as like title contenders is just specifically about Embiid and Simmons, when they don't usually always have the right fitted pieces around them. If that makes sense.
It's an interesting take. I don't know if I agree with it. I don't know if I disagree with it. I don't know if I agree with it.
I know what I'm trying to say. It's just it's kind of iffy. I don't know. I don't know how to really truly put it
Well,
out.
I'll hold on to my thoughts. I can't really gather it. Debating your opinion as much as I like to just debate you. But yeah. The Bucks taking the win. Bucks 2.5 games behind the Sixers. Sixers and the Nets now tied with the Sixers loss. All right, it's going to the next game of the doubleheader. The Los Angeles Lakers, defending champions, and that man to the left of LeBron, Anthony Davis, returning, going up against Luka and his Dallas Mavericks. Well, first off, it was nice to see AD back. It's been a while. You know how skilled he is. You know how versatile he is. You know how dominant he can be. And you know that they don't win a championship without him.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about last year, it wouldn't win the championship without him. And this year, they want a chance to win the championship. They won't win
Without AD.
him. So it's good to see him healthy. It's good to see him back on the floor. Didn't play as much. Only played 17 minutes. But it was just nice seeing him out there. But let's talk about this game. It was Dallas who really kind of controlled it a bit in that first half. Not to a blowout extent, but controlled it a good amount. Then it was the Lakers coming out in that third quarter, kind of making it competitive, kind of keeping it back and forth. And then, like I said, from that point in that third quarter, bleeding to that fourth quarter, it was a bit back and forth affair. Dallas were the ones that they tried to get up until that, run, in that deep run the Lakers can't come back from. But the Lakers always stuck within range, always kept within range, always maintained their always got within distance,
Yeah.
in a safe enough distance. But even that, it still wasn't enough. As this Dallas team, late they made the plays. Lakers kind of got a little bit sloppy in that fourth quarter,
Mhm.
and Dallas was able to run them out. Dallas was able to secure that win late in the fourth quarter and beat this Lakers team.
Yeah. It's crazy how you allude to that last part when talk about the Lakers, how like the Mavericks try to make that run, but the Lakers just always stood in distance. That's what they were doing since, well, even though it took them a game or two to get adjusted to that. That's what they were doing when AD and Braun went out. Even when
Mm-hmm.
AD was out, actually, before Braun went out, when
Yeah.
AD first went out, they were always, when they were at a disadvantage, they always found a way to stay close into the game, though, against teams. You could say it was usually because of the leadership of Braun, but then when Braun went out, they were still doing the same thing. They were always staying in those distance and win games in which, like, even if they lose, they knew for a fact it wasn't a blowout. You know what I mean? Because people expect them to get blown out with no LeBron, no AD. People who like are usually, well, let me not say expect, but they're saying there's likely chance that they may get blown out this game.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Lakers never made it seem like that. They always made it seem like, yo, this is still a winnable game for us regardless. And that's because of the talents of what they got. Struder, who's a really talented to guards and who could put up buckets whenever he wants to. You talk about Harold, his energy and how his inside presence. You talk about Kuzma. Kuzma, who again probably outside of Horton Tucker probably has the most potential because of youth and ability
Mm-hmm.
to do it on both on and off. You talk about KCP with his 3-point shooting who had a great game. And you talk about Caruso. It's just like, they find ways. They stay as a team, they stay together, and they find ways to stay within the ball game, regardless if they're down or up.
Yeah, and two players you alluded to, want to give credit to, Schroeder and KCP. The Lakers kind of struggled a bit from the three ball, but that was everybody except KCP because he was not struggling. He was knocking them down, and he really had the high hand from deep. And when KCP kind of gets it going, I know, but when LeBron and AD's there, it kind of gives them that motivation, kind of gives them that energy, kind of a bit of a spark plug,
Yeah.
and he leads to big runs. Dennis Schroeder, who stepped up big time for them in this game, making plays, scoring the ball, and passing. And that's what I feel like he's been trying to do ever since LeBron went down.
Yeah, just take up that role. And LeBron is a great teacher to learn from in
Yeah.
terms of leadership. And look, let me tell you something. Dennis Schroeder has probably had the most luckiest career in terms of learning how to be a leader from an aspect of he came from a situation in Atlanta in which he was behind Jeff Teague, who was a good leader for that team as their
An
guard,
all-star at that time. Mm-hmm.
at that time. Then you talk about the fact that he goes to Oklahoma City and plays right along one side. Again, the greatest pure point guard, one of the greatest pure point guards to ever play the game, and probably arguably one of the greatest, not even arguably, one of the greatest guards to ever play the game in Chris Paul, one of the greatest leaders to play the game, and how he puts his art out there. So that's another one. And then you come to the Lakers and you got LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how lucky you got to be to have all that teachings of how to be a great leader.
Yeah.
So that should go to show you a lot with his case, and he's basically taking up that role. He said, "Okay, no Braun, no AD. We don't have no. I'm not disrespecting any of the guys, but I'm the one who's orchestrating this offense as the lead point guard. Let these leadership qualities start to show, and as a result, that's what he's been doing."
Yeah. So credit to him. But enough about the losers. Let's talk about the winners. Dallas Mavericks. Good performance by them. Good performance by Luka. They ran the ball by him. I mean, they do that every game. But and Luka being Luka, he did his best.
Yeah,
Just being a star, being that leader of that team, being their playmaker, being their go-to guy. And when everything flows around him, Sometimes Dallas kind of does that too much.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, he benefits them so well. And when he has it going, other guys got it going. Vinny Smith has it going. Josh Richardson has it going. Like Willie Cauley-Stein, come off the bench, he had a good game. Porzingis, even though unfortunately for him, which I forgot to mention, in that third quarter, he went down with an injury, rolled his ankle, and he didn't return the game. And he's a big part of the Mavericks. I feel like if he stays healthy, which has been a struggle for him this year, they can kind of get it going. They could possibly get far and make some upsets.
Yeah, I totally agree with you from that standpoint, but it's just like ever since he's came to the Mavs, he's constantly been having to deal with setback because of injuries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We haven't truly got to see what he could do, especially because you see these spurts with him and Doncic being so well paired together, but yet it's just like they haven't been able to do it all together because of the simple fact he keeps getting injured. And it's shocking because even when he's been injured and when he has had those times on the floor playing that Mavericks team, you see how different we play. You see how much of the flow they play with, and you see how well he works with Doncic. And just like what we saw in the playoffs against the Clippers, don't forget they could not really, like, we talk about the Nuggets upsetting the Clippers. The Mavericks did it if he didn't go down.
Yeah, it's debatable. Yeah, it's arguable. You can make that argument.
We can make that argument. It's probably unlikely, but it looked kind of likely the way
it looks possible. It looks possible.
But the unicorn is a great talent. The unicorn is a great talent. We know what he could do. We know how talented he is. We just need to see more of him when it's hard to avoid injuries. We just need to see more of him when he's not injured.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate for Porzingis. Hopefully he's fine. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Because like I said, he's been getting hurt a lot. I know for his career, he doesn't want that. And for the Mavericks, obviously they don't want that because he's a big part of that franchise. So yeah. Bro, you can't say Porzingis.
No, I can't say Porzingis. I would, because there's so much KPs and stuff like that. I just don't want to,
Who's the other KP?
Kevin Porter.
Kevin Porter?
Yeah.
No disrespect to Kevin Porter. Come on.
Well, and it's good to use the unicorn because that's a legendary kind of nickname. I'm not gonna lie. You can't lie.
Yeah. No, Kevin Durant did something. He did something with that. That wasn't a bad nickname. But yeah. Really? Kevin Porter? Kristaps Porzingis? KP?
Well, I could have said Porzingis, but I got stuck with what I want to say.
With all the respect to Kevin Porter, I think he kind of takes a back seat in terms of Porzingis,
Yes.
He's a great player.
I know what you mean.
They kind of sent him in the D League. I mean, the G League.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
He sent him in the G League, and he was the best player there immediately.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Calm down.
What? I'm saying, what happened? They sent him to the G League, and he was the best player there immediately.
Yeah.
They said it was like LeBron in high school. Yeah, it was the Mavericks taking the win, and Dallas and the Portland Trailblazers are tied for that 6th seed. Luka and Mark Cuban don't like playing game, so they're trying to get out of that, and it's a possibility now. Portland holds a tiebreaker, so they currently hold the 6th seed. But I mean, yeah, there's still games to play, so they can take it.
Yeah. Oh man. Look, let me tell you something. I'm not going to talk about the Mavericks side. I'm going to talk about more the Portland side. Let me tell you this right now. They have once again dealt with injuries, yes. But let me tell you, Portland does not want to play another playing game. That's what they don't want to do.
Yeah, they don't.
I'm not saying that even if they play in a playing game, there's a likely chance that whoever they go against, they're beating. So if they're going against Memphis, yeah, it's going to be another win for them, in my opinion.
JJJ here.
Yeah, but that's your surprise team. Memphis is your surprise team. So you may have
Portland, your dark horse.
Yeah, Portland's my dark horse. But so I'm saying that if they end up in the playing game, hopefully that doesn't happen. But if they end up in the playing game, they're gonna beat Memphis or whoever's at that 8th seed. But let me tell you something, they don't want to go through another need of having to play in the playing game. They already saw how that was last time, and they don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Trust and believe.
Oh yeah. What happened to your surprise team?
Oh.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Oh no, I'll talk about it. About that. I'm not even gonna make the excuse of them being young. They just haven't been able to put it all together. They're talented. We know how good they could be. We know how great they are offensively. We know how great they could be defensively. And we know how great legendary of a coach they got with Stan Van Gundy. But they just still haven't been able to piece it all together to make something up. They haven't found who they truly want to go to in closing moments. I feel like at times they switch between Ingram and Zion on who they want to close out games. Don't get me wrong, they can still work together. But it's just like, they probably have that time in which, like, they's like, oh man, all right, we got to shit a rock. But it's like, if you got the hot hand, you got the hot hand. And once again, they're blowing leads. They're blowing leads and they leading going into the fourth quarter, leading, and they blew so many games. I probably can't tell you the number, but I remember a good amount of times they went to the fourth quarter with the lead intact and a good lead, and they made it just slip right through their fingers like it was butter or something.
Well, what you said, I don't think I have a problem with everything that you said. I agree with, except for the Zion and Brandon Ingram down the stretch. I don't think that's the problem of who to choose from. It's good to have multiple options in the fourth quarter.
Yes, there is good to have multiple options in the fourth quarter, but here's my thing, right? It's just like, this is where eventually I'm not saying any of these guys have an ego problem whatsoever, but that's when egos do take over. Because say if, even though it would be great if both of them have the high hand, say if both of them have the high hand and then, it comes up to a moment in which, like, your team needs a bucket and you need to orchestrate a play. And, like, you orchestrate a play for one of them while the other feel like he could get his shot or he could get by his man or something like that. There could be problems or tackles that, like, little things like that, if that makes sense. Like, like, say if, like, they run up a play for Ingram, but yet, like, Zion feel like he could be his man and get to the spot to get something. Or if it was vice versa. There could be problems with that because it's just like you don't know how to really truly go to, and you got to hope that the play just get busted in order for them to get their opportunity to shine.
Hey,
this a lot going. You just say I hate you. Hey, look at this. There's a lot. There's a lot into it, but more importantly, forget all of that. More importantly, they just need to find a way to put it all together. Just find a way to put it all together.
Yeah, that we can agree on, most definitely. But all right, news around the league. I think there was only just one thing. I was status on Trey Young's injury. Suffered that injury in Wednesday's game against the Knicks in that third quarter. Rolled his ankle. Luckily, it's not serious. Just some swelling or whatever. He should be back soon. This is great news. He's very valuable to that Hawks team. And I know he wants to will his team into the playoffs. Don't want to play in the play-in. So in this Eastern Conference, you could be the 5th seed and you drop to the 8th seed. So, yeah. Good news for Trey Young.
Yes, great news. And hopefully he comes back soon because, again, that Eastern Conference is tight.
Yep. Yes, it is. All right. It is prediction time for tonight's set of games. It's Friday night basketball. So let's get into it. First, starting off, the Miami Heat going up against the Atlanta Hawks. Speaking of the Atlanta Hawks, big game for both teams. Who you got?
Your hot take.
My hot take, guys. Miami. Even though this kind of hurt my hot take because that means that they will be closer. But yeah, I got the Heat.
Yeah.
But the first primetime game of the night, ESPN 7:30. The Boston Celtics going up against the Brooklyn Nets.
Boston
coming off that big win against the Phoenix Suns last night. And without Jaylen Brown. They did that. So impressive. The Cavs going up against the Hornets. The Clippers going up against the Rockets. Clippers. The Wizards 6-game winning streak going up against the Thunder.
The Wizards.
Wizards. Russell playing his former team. The Grizzlies going up against the Trail Blazers. Who you got?
The Blazers. They need this win.
And so do the Grizzlies. Because the Grizzlies are dropping in that play-in thing too. But the Trailblazers are dropping to the play-in.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a big game for both of them. But I have to agree with you. I got the Blazers. And lastly, ESPN 10 o'clock primetime game. The Denver Nuggets going up against the Golden State Warriors. Who do you got?
Golden State.
Denver. Why you said that about Denver? Like they just bums now without Murray.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's just like, I don't know who's gonna contain Curry. On that side. Who's their point guard? Well, I'm not saying Jamal Murray was able to contain him defensively, but I'm saying
contain Curry. MV Jokic. MV Joker. Don't do that. Come on now. We said a lot. Let's talk about that. We said a lot about Curry and even Dame at one point and MVP'd.
We always talked about Jokic in the MVP conversation. Now we always did.
Not enough.
Yes, we did. We always say he was the top one. We always, whenever we bring up the top 3 candidates, we always said it was Embiid, Jokic, and before he went out, it was Braun. We always put Jokic in the top 2.
I don't believe we have.
Okay, look at you. Right.
I think we given a lot to Embiid, especially me.
Yes, we said Embiid was 1, but you're right though. We haven't brought up his name, but whenever we did bring up the conversation, we always said Jokic was top 2. We always said that. We just don't bring up his name as much because, of course, Embiid is wilding, and there's so many other candidates that deserve some kind of thing. But we all say that whenever we bring it up, we say Jokic is number 2. We always say that. Always say that.
Jokic is Arvydas in his prime.
Yeah, you're not lying. I remember we had that conversation. Yes, you're not lying. He is Arvydas Sabonis in his prime. An amazing passer and just amazing and gifted passer and a person who could score at will inside whenever he wants to. But we always brought him up and we probably don't bring him up as much as MB or those guys who deserve consideration. But we always said that right behind Embiid, if Embiid wasn't in the league, he'll be the MVP of the league right now. Or front runner for the MVP, basically.
Man, there's a lot of consideration.
Yes, there is a lot of consideration.
It's a big debate. Him and Jokic. Embiid and Jokic. And 2 centers. I love to see it. The big man is back.
Look, man. If one of them win, hey, this will be the first time a center has won it since Shaq. So,
yeah, that'll be big. That'll really be big. Mm-hmm. All right. I think it's time to wrap things up. Final thoughts. It's coming to that time. It's almost May. We have about a week left. until it's May, and yeah, it's time for teams to start stepping up. I mean, I'm looking at the play-ins for the Western Conference. The Spurs are only a half game back from that 8th seed from the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Just mentioned Portland Trailblazers and the Mavericks having the same record, 6th and the 7th seed. That's big because one will have to play in a play-in tournament, which they could possibly get eliminated from and not even make the playoffs. And one is just immediately automatically in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Pelicans are not there. The Eastern Conference we've mentioned all year, that 4th to 7th seed. The Knicks, who have been playing great basketball, they're the 4th seed, and they're only a half game ahead of the Hawks and the Celtics. And the Heat are only a game behind the Celtics and the Hawks. So I mean, not to mention we already mentioned the Sixers, the Nets, and the Bucks as the top 3. I mean, it's really getting crazy. It's really getting crazy. Also, the Wizards, Bulls, and the Raptors
for the playing game. Yeah.
Yeah, for the playing game, that 10th spot. I mean, the Wizards are a half game ahead of the Bulls and the Raptors. So yeah. That's just a little update on the playoffs and the play-ins.
Yeah.
It's getting wild right now.
Yeah,
It's go time.
It's go time. Everything is so close until it's just like, man, you can't step over one. Like the margin of error is so small. And let's to be honest, let's give look. Let me tell you something. I know Luka made that BS lucky shot like that. I don't know how he still got that off against Memphis, but let's just give the Mavericks a lot of credit from where they started off in the season, how they were able to really bounce back and now have an opportunity to probably just be legit in the playoffs and not need to play in a playing game. That's kind of crazy because they started off the season really bad.
Oh yeah. You're right. They did.
They started off the season really bad, in which it got to a point where they did regress. They did regress from where we thought that they were going to be because they exceeded expectations last season and blew us out the water. So the fact that they're in a situation, but to see how the way they have bounced back as of recently has been amazing. And just another thing about your hot take, just remember things just got to fall in place. I know it's tough. I know because whenever we bring it up and stuff like something just changes up. But you see, it's hard to make a hot take like that, knowing that it's so tight. It's just like things got to fall in place.
Maybe someone could say I let my emotions get the best of me. Some would say.
No, I don't think you made your emotions get the best of you. It's just that of how you felt within the moment. But
that's the emotions get the best of me. But yeah, I know I made it a little bit early. Still got about a month of basketball to play.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that might be the matchup. I hope as a fan that we match up, but I just feel like the way the Hawks, Celtics, and Knicks have been playing, that they're going to really be battling for the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And the Heat is just going to be on the outside around the 7th. Yeah. So that's what I think. That's why I gave my hot take. Hopefully the Sixers don't mess it up. Yeah. Hopefully the Heat just don't win like 10 straight. But yeah.
I doubt they're gonna win 10 straight, but yeah, go on. Yeah.
Maybe not, but it's crazy right now in the NBA. Margin of error, as you said, is so slim. It really is slim. So it's game time. It's game time.
Yep, let's get into it.
All right. Thank you guys for watching today's podcast. Make sure to tune into tomorrow's podcast, 1:00 game. So tomorrow's podcast, Saturday's podcast, will be 11 a.m. So 11 a.m. Be there. Make sure you tune to tomorrow's podcast, 11 a.m. Make sure you like and subscribe.
Also follow IG and our TikTok down in the description below.
Yes. And once again, I am Evan.
Ja.
And this was the Mind Basketball Podcast.